Hey guys, Paragon here, and No Time to Explain has finally been released. So we've been able to go through the quest chain and get this really cool gun. This is going to be my first impressions on it. So when I picked up this gun, when I first got it, the perks looked pretty awesome, and I went straight into a Nightfall and had an absolute blast. Took it into some Crucible, and I'm going to let you guys know how I feel about this gun. So let's look at the perks first of all. We have Smooth Ballistics, Accurized Ballistics, and Smart Drift Control. So out of those three, I prefer Smart Drift Control. That just suits how I prefer the gun to handle. The gun is pretty accurate, but I find the sights are a little bit restrictive, and the muzzle flash, especially with the projectile that it's shooting, can get in my way a lot of my aiming. So Smart Drift Control helped me out a lot with this gun. Full auto, awesome perk to have on any gun. Let's move over to our tier 2. We have Speed Reload, Hand Loaded, which is going to increase our range, and Fitted Stock, which increases weapon stability. So I picked Fitted Stock again. I feel this just suits how I prefer the gun to handle. Having that better stability is going to make it easier to land those shots. And last but not least, Rewind again. Really awesome perk. So precision hits are immediately returned to the magazine. That's just awesome. This mechanic in its own, this ability by its own, is such great game design. It rewards skilled gameplay. So if you're going to land those precision shots, you get all of those shots put straight back in your magazine, and it makes a huge difference. Really good DPS output, consistent damage. So sustained damage, this gun is really good, and is probably on par with something like the Black Spindle and some other things, but we'll have a look at that really soon, guys. So let's start with PvE. For the PvE setting, this gun does an awesome job of keeping your DPS sustained. So it gives you a good amount of sustained damage. That ammo return is quite easy to get, making sure you're landing those precision hits, and you can keep your mag up indefinitely if you continue to land those hits, which is great for any engagement. Let's look at this weapon's effectiveness in the raid. So I use this gun for the entire King's Fall raid, from start all the way through to finish after we killed Oryx. And to be honest, the gun was a lot of fun, but compared to other exotics, it leaves a lot to be desired. Getting your ammo back on the precision hits is definitely handy, but is really only beneficial against the red ads. If we look at the War Priest fight, for example, I was able to aim down sights, shoot the entire time on the damage phases on the boss without having to reload. That was awesome. But if we compared that to the damage of my other teammates in the raid, some of them were doing double the damage that I had, and they didn't even have Black Spindle. They weren't even using that at the time. So for what this gun's damage output is, it's not going to be able to meet up with something like the Black Spindle or the Touch of Malice. So even on the Oryx encounter, you're not able to get precision shots on Oryx, and you're going to have to reload that mag. The only time you're going to benefit from it is when you're shooting the ogres or the ads, and even then there's better weapons to choose from for those sections. So the gun, again, the exotic perk is really cool, but giving you a go-to exotic that's going to be the #1 thing you have to pick up, it's not really going to qualify as the best choice there. Black Spindle, definitely a much better choice. And looking at even Sleeper Simulant as well, with that burst damage and the switch to the sniper, your damage is going to be much greater with those two. But the gun feels very similar to Neowin's Mercy or a Red Death. It's in the same category and same archetype as those guns. So it's that middle of the road. It's not your fast fire rate, low impact, but it's not your low fire rate, high impact. It's that middle ground pulse rifle. For me personally, they're not my favorite. I do prefer the faster firing pulse rifles over the middle and the high impact. That's just me personally though. So you guys might like something different, perfectly fine. For those of you that you enjoyed the Hopscotch Pilgrim or the Spare Change and the guns like Neowin's Mercy, this gun is going to feel right at home for you. It feels very similar to those guns, and with the full auto, it feels really good for PvE. The perks are definitely built around giving you really solid sustained damage. The only con, I think, though, is because it's an exotic, you lose out on having, you look at your Black Spindle, for example, which provides a similar sustained damage buff for your character and your gear loadout. If you're going to pick this over Black Spindle, you're probably going to get a net DPS loss, because this gun is not going to be able to compete with its overall damage output. But if we look at some of the theories that are going around to do with the hard mode, with guns not being able to reload, or different mechanics that are going to be thrown at us, again, these aren't confirmed, these are theories that are in the community. This gun could really play a huge part in keeping our damage output sustainable. Because if we're not able to reload, or if you get stuck in a position where you're not going to run out of ammo with this gun, you're always getting ammo back, which is great. But like I said, for it to be in the exotic slot, I feel it doesn't give enough. Again, that perk that we get, it's great. It's going to give you more bullets, more DPS and more uptime. But compared to other exotics, I could pick another legendary auto and, another legendary primary and get a lot more out of that gun, as opposed to using my no time to explain and missing out on that. So Rewind, again, a great perk, but I feel like it doesn't really give everything that I would want from an exotic. Maybe if this weapon had Arc Burn or Void or even Solar, some kind of elemental damage to really solidify it as one of those top tier guns, that would take, this gun would take the cake. If this had some kind of burn, that would make a huge difference. But it feels like a legendary that they just slapped a cool perk onto the end of. So again, it's a great gun for PvE. Definitely landing those precision shots is very rewarding, and you're going to get your ammo back. But for me, I feel that the other exotics like the Black Spindle, even Sleeper Simulant and your exotic swords are going to outclass it a bit and give you a little bit more utility and a bit more, it's going to be a hard decision to pick this over another exotic. It's actually going to be an easier decision to pick another exotic over this one. But still a great gun for PvE. So let's get on to PvP. For me, personally in PvP, I hated this gun. I felt like there were so many gunfights that I got into that I should have won if I had a different gun. If I had something like my Hawksaw or my Bad Juju, other guns that fire in a way that I prefer. Again, I prefer the fast-firing, low-impact pulse rifles. For me, that's just how I feel pulse rifles. They feel right. They feel right. They feel like they kill fast enough. It feels like I can compete in multiple ranges. With this one, with no time to explain, I felt like I was slightly impaired because the gun's time to kill, it's still a 3-burst kill, even if you put on those accurized ballistics. So the Hawksaw is a 3-burst kill as well, but fires much faster. So for me, having that faster time to kill is really important in winning those gunfights and coming out on top. With no time to explain, I felt like there were too many gunfights that I lost out because my gun couldn't do what I needed it to do in that moment. And again, like I was saying before, the sights feel very restrictive for me. I don't feel like they're super clear, and I also don't feel like the muzzle flash gives me a great opportunity to reline my shots. There were a couple of moments where I felt like while I was shooting, I was on target, but then I realized I was actually completely off target because the muzzle flash, I couldn't see where my enemies were moving to actually get away from me. So that made it hard for me to follow up on my initial engagement and seal the kill. So for me, the gun just felt like it was a little bit lackluster. It didn't really give everything that I wanted it to for it to take that exotic perk. The pros though, it's definitely, again, for you guys who are familiar with Newen's Mercy and Hopscotch Pilgrim and that kind of pulse rifle, you're going to enjoy this gun, and it's going to feel good for you. But for me, it just didn't feel strong enough to be able to take the place of my Hawksaw or my Bad Juju. And I felt there were too many gunfights that I lost because I wasn't able to get out the damage that I needed in the time required. So for me, this was my 3rd game with this gun, and I don't necessarily play too bad. My aim is not great in this game. I miss a lot of snipe shots, and I don't really play the best, but I just felt this gun, for me personally, with how I like to play, it just impaired me a lot. I wasn't able to get my kills as fast as I would like to. It didn't, again, the sights for me, couple that with the muzzle flash from the projectile, it felt strange and it felt different. And even the Stranger's rifle, when I used to use that gun, I had the same issue with that gun. I've had people completely annihilate me with that gun, and you will see in this gameplay, I get messed up by a couple of other people using no time to explain, and for them it might be working brilliant. And again, it's not a bad gun, but for me it doesn't feel strong enough for how I prefer my guns to handle in Crucible. So my final verdict for No Time to Explain is a 7 out of 10 for PvE. Why I give it a 7 out of 10 is because, again, the Rewind Again perk is really, really good. But compared to something like the Black Spindle or other exotics that are out there, it doesn't feel like it's strong enough to really compete with the big exotics out there. For PvP, I would give it a 5 out of 10. For me, it's just not my gun. You guys might feel differently, so let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. If you like the gun, if you don't like the gun, what you like about it, what you don't like about it. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like and a comment, and make sure you tune in for more Destiny content, and we will see you next time.